IVM.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 4 of The Fighting Goat. My name is Arjun Mystic Chipalkatti. I'm joined by my buddy Somesh, the Superhuman Kamra. Somesh, so glad to be here again. And I apologize already, my voice is a little Farhan-esque because of the wild weekend that I've had.
Rock on!
It does know a little bit.
Karthik calling Karthik on today's episode of The Fighting Goat. Arjun, so good to have you here. So good to have you here. I believe you've had a wonderful weekend. We will come to that, but let's speak on round 1 about the week that was.
The MMA week that was. And what a week it was, Somesh. So much of action, so much of exciting, regional, non-regional. And before we get into it, there's actually one fact. A sumo wrestler in Ryzen has scored the fastest knockout in the world.
Oh, really?
A sumo
Who's
wrestler.
that?
I'm still sketchy on the details. It happened like just now. So I got an update that there was the fastest knockout. We'll get back to that because that's technically the next week.
Wow. That is so awesome. So let's speak on UFC Fight Night, Brunson versus Holland. Yes, how did that go, Arjun? Can you tell us about what really happened? And we can speak on the main event after we speak about the heavyweight Tai Tuivasa.
Oh man, Tai Tuivasa's fight was so good. It was barely anything. Somesh, you saw that fight. He came in, he cracked him, he rocked him. But the fact that, see, Tai has had a up and down a little bit career. He's very good fundamentally, but I think when he faces elite competition, something happens to him. He's
Absolutely
tough as nails, but I think there's a switch that goes off. It's the same thing that I wouldn't say always happens to Alistair Overeem, but Alistair Overeem does such great work till he reaches the belt and then he screws up.
And then he kind of falls off the radar. Yeah, but in fact, his opponent, Harry Hunsucker, was making his UFC debut. And man, in fact, in my pre-fight analysis, I wrote, in case Harry can get past Tai Tuivasa, he's going to skyrocket, but it's going to be a very, very difficult road to actually tread on for him. And that's exactly what happened. It was round 1 in 49 seconds when the New Zealander Tai Tuivasa knocked out Harry Hunsucker in a devastating manner.
Man, it was. See, the thing is, when you're in heavyweights, in any heavyweight division of anything, you're going to hit harder. So it's, and
Absolutely,
in the UFC, these guys, all these guys are animals, man. They're savages. One punch is all it takes.
Yeah, in fact, Arjun, the next fight I want to speak to you about was the women's strawweight fight between two UFC debutants that are fighting on the main card. Montserrat Ruiz versus Cheyenne Buys. And in fact, what really went on there? Because both of them were having such bad blood between each other. It was like, almost they knew each other for a very, very long time. And there was something which has happened outside the octagon, something which we don't know about. After every round, there was something that was going on. And at the end of the fight, the verbal showdown that both of them had, and they were kind of, lifting up their fingers.
Dude, yeah, they were giving each other the bird.
They were just absolutely. I mean, for those who do not know, Cheyenne Buys was the last minute replacement. The original opponent to this fight was Kay Hansen, who was supposed to face Montserrat Ruiz. And this happened on March 12th.
Man,
it was just a few weeks back. And Cheyenne Buys took the fight on a short notice. And the bad blood between them continued for some reason, and it escalated post the fight. But what a fight that was. One of the most exciting fights on the card was a women's strawweight fight. But Arjun, isn't that always been the case? I think in the last couple of years, I guess the women have just taken over. In fact, they've had so many main events, and people in fact look forward on seeing someone like an Amanda Nunes, or the women have pretty much just taken over.
Very true. I mean, not only have women have carved out a good niche and a good space for themselves, it's not even just a good space. Now they're headlining, they're co-headlining. In fact, I think one of the cards in April has a double female headliner where there are two fights.
It does?
Yeah, Zhang Weili is fighting for her belt. Valentina Shevchenko is fighting for her belt. So there are two fights that are taking place. And it's going to be, superb.
Yes.
There are a lot of things happening for the women. And come on, Somesh, as much as like I'm a fan of the bad blood as well. You want that bad blood. It helps the fight. It makes it more emotional, yes. But come on, yeah, a little bit of bad blood. When Ronda and Misha hated one another during the TUF, it made that season so much more interesting to watch.
And it was genuine hate. It's not that after the fight ends they kind of hug it out or something of a sort. The hate continues, and it is genuine hate. In fact, I was going to come to that aspect. Women's MMA is becoming exciting, yet there is a huge vacuum in that area. There are so many slots open for women to take. Do you think women's MMA will become as big or bigger than the men's MMA division eventually? Because if I'm not mistaken, the UFC has about 800 fighters on their roster at the moment. And I believe about 600 plus are males.
I mean, it'll take its time, it's women's MMA is far younger as compared to men fighting. It was women like Gina Carano, Misha Tate, Sarah McMahon, and more importantly, Ronda Rousey.
Liz Carmouche.
There's so many names. I'm sure I'm forgetting so many names. But people like Ronda were the first women that said, yeah, you know what? A woman can headline a card on her own volition, her own steam. And women like Ronda was co-headlining guys like Conor and so many other fighters. And it'll come up. Amanda is a huge draw. Bullet Valentina is a huge draw. It's coming. I think it'll get there. It'll get there slowly. But Somesh, let's quickly move on to, I think we had a couple of knockouts, but more importantly, I think we wanted to discuss the main event, which was a bit of a funny one, wasn't it? We expected something else and we saw something else. And most scarily, Somesh, we both lost.
Let's not get down to that point. Let's not get down to that point, because ladies and gentlemen, if Arjun and me both select the same fighter and we lose, Mr. Cyrus Procha has all the authority to punch us in the arm, and that is something which we do not want at the moment.
I kind of am confident about my 100-meter skills though. I think I am. I think I can sprint to a rickshaw pretty quickly. Bhaiya, kahan bhi chalo. पर निकलो यहाँ से.
भैया मलाड चलो.
नहीं मलाड नहीं जाएगा. अंदर ही चलो. अंदर ही नहीं जाएगा. किधर तो चल. यहाँ से चल.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to the main event of the evening between Derek Brunson and Kevin Holland. Man, what a contest it was. Kevin Holland, the betting favorite, the younger fighter, the one that talks a lot, that runs his mouth equally. 5-fight win streak. I mean, Arjun, how could this situation go wrong? I mean, Kevin Holland was there, and Dana was pretty sure that yes, he's going to win, and he had the map chalked out for Kevin Holland. And we even saw him, that between the rounds he was talking to Khabib, who was in the audience. In fact, I think it was round 3 or round 4 where he was talking to Khabib between the fight.
Here's the thing: you want to hype the fight. You want to talk trash. But there has to be a reason behind the talking. There are some iconic pictures in history when GSP spoke to Koscheck in their fight. When he literally told him, I fucking hurt your eye. I know it. Now, let's see what you can do now. Or when Koscheck took Paul Daly down and he said, try and get off your back. You talk so much of smack. Now try and getting off your back. It's when Anderson whispered something in Rich Franklin's ear and turned up the heat and knocked him out. It's talking for a reason. Now, if you're just, we heard the reports, we saw the fights. I think he was just talking throughout. And what Daniel Cormier said was right. He's like, dude, you talk your trash, but you're not improving position from the bottom. You're just sitting there talking.
Absolutely. In fact, the scorecard was 49-45, 49-46, 49-46, which means one of the judges has given the contest 10-8, and that I believe was round number 1, where Brunson absolutely dominated him on the feet, took him down convincingly, slammed him once, and absolutely had total control of the situation.
Do you think, I know this is a different subject, but do you think 10-8 rounds are just becoming a thing that people are giving out too easily? Once upon a time, 10-8 rounds were a big deal. If you knocked somebody down twice, and then if you control them for the rest of the round, yes, could be a 10-8 round. Like how Max Holloway's fight with Kelvin Qatar, those were 3 10-8 rounds. 10-7 even.
Oh, man.
That warrant is... Anyway, coming back to that, but I think Kevin Holland's he's young. You could see He didn't. He thought he's facing an old man, Brunson. He thought he'll do what Izzy did to Derek. But then again, Israel Adesanya is Israel Adesanya for a reason. And Brunson, props to him, man. Look at the veteran go. He proved why he belongs in that top 10. He shut him down. He shut him down badly.
You know, Brunson is 37 years old. I believe Kevin Holland is 20 or 29. And, you know, we heard Dana in the post-fight conference where he said, you know, it seemed Kevin Holland just froze. He just had one of those, you know, those moments where you just freeze. And things just don't take off, you know. And it's one of those things that happens with the fighters at the worst point of time when they're in the octagon and they just freeze.
Right.
They do not know, you know, exactly what's happening. You know, your gut instinct takes over. You start talking.
Right.
You know, you talk to your opponent. You sometimes even talk to, you know, the referee. You talk to the superstars sitting in the crowd. Sometimes people even talk to Dana White. In fact, we saw Khabib doing this, but Khabib was so
but
calm.
That's the difference.
He was in control. You know, he was in control of the situation.
Khabib also has talked so much.
Absolutely.
Like I remember in his fight against Michael Johnson, again in his fight against Barboza, he's like, he told him like, you know, it's my time. Don't let me keep doing this. Just tap out. Just submit. But he was like you said so rightly, he was in control. He was dominating. Whereas in this case, it's I don't know what went wrong because I think he didn't prepare for that aspect. He thought Derek would stand with him because the ease with which the takedowns happened were what was scary. Because it's only when Derek got tired in the fourth was he able to kind of defend it. You know?
But in fact, Arjun, I think we spoke about this in our previous episode, which is episode 3 of The Fighting GOAT. We spoke about how the
only available on ivmpodcast.com.
Absolutely. The best podcast network and the best combat sport podcast network in India right now and soon to be the best in Asia. Anyways, in fact, we spoke about this point where we did touch upon this instant, you know, the fighters of today's generation have a very methodical way of dealing with situations. And it seems that they've been training for this moment since they're 14 or 15. You know, they've never worked as plumbers or gardeners, you know, or garbage men. They have never seen life to deal with situations. Honestly, I have never seen people like GSP freeze. I have never seen people like, you know, Khabib freeze. These are people who have dealt with life, who've had maybe 1 or 2 day jobs, who have competed, who have trained, and after dealing with adversity, they have become champions. The fighters of today just seem that everything is so cushioned for them to come into the limelight that when they are there, there's a kind of a freeze. And I don't know why it happens so often with the younger fighters.
But not all. I mean, okay.
No, not all. You know,
okay, Sean O'Malley.
I mean, you know, you can. You know what? Sean O'Malley is fighting on the next card. We were just about to get to that.
Yeah.
You know, such a great example. You know, somebody who was cushioned.
But then he took took on a murderer in Chito Vera, man.
Yeah, but honestly, Chito Vera is
murderer.
You know, it's not that he murderer. You know, he's he's not a top 3 fighter. You know, it's not like he's gonna fight for the belt after he beats Sean O'Malley. It's just a level up in competition, and you saw the way Sean O'Malley just crumbled.
But Somesh, hang on. It's it's also, even though it's a level up in competition, it's also the kind of competition it is. Chito Vera is someone who's notorious. He's a hard-hitting fighter. He's not easy to get rid of. It's like comparing him to like a Jim Miller. A Jim Miller may not be top 10 anymore, but Jim Miller is a hard test for anybody. And if you have a moment of, spacing out, or you're scared or you're afraid, he will take advantage of that and finish you.
But don't you think that the fighters need to get past these challenges to get to the top? Typically, Kevin Holland was, like, in my eyes, Kevin Holland was fed Derek Brunson, and he still could not put him away.
I agree. Maybe this was a stepping stone for Derek. Another feather in his cap, a big knockout to show off, to justify his next move in that middleweight division. It would have launched him into, maybe taking on the number 2 or the number 3 of the division. Maybe he could have been waiting for the winner of Whittaker Costa. Maybe he could have stepped in against them. Maybe it's a little too early to fast track that, because, Robbie is Robbie. But
well, there is one very interesting aspect which I want to say. We spoke about Derek Brunson, who's been in the UFC for about 12 years now. Derek Brunson has had 22 fights in the UFC. And Derek Brunson has not missed weight even once.
Wow, that's incredible.
this is what I'm saying is ethics. You do your job well. You don't go out there speaking trash, saying, listen, I'm this, I'm that, I can slam you, I can do this, that. I mean, that's fine. That's fine.
The same thing has been done by Connor. Connor has talked so much of trash, but he was never unprofessional. He always won. He always got his weight on right. He was always there on time.
He showed up. Honestly, he showed up.
Mentally, he showed up.
There are absolutely, in fact, there are so many topics where, we can speak about Khabib backing off or Khabib not showing up. I mean, the cancelled fights of Khabib are a lot, but honestly, the fact that he deals with his fight game in a certain manner where he has ethics, he's on point all the time. I mean, you cannot take that away from him at any given point of time.
But that being said, I think it was a great win for Derek Brunson. It was
absolutely
a great contest. But that was not the only big fight card of the week. We had one locally as well.
Absolutely. We had a beautifully curated event, which was in Goa by iOS Sports, where our very own Vijender Singh was taking on the Russian beast, Lobsan. And Arjun, you were there ringside.
Oh, man, yeah.
You were commentating for this. I mean, how good is that? Actually, you made me really jealous about this. I didn't want to touch
up. Next time you have to come with me.
Upon this topic.
Next time you have to come with me.
Absolutely.
Next time, I think I'm just going to say like, okay, just Mr. Kamra is my co-commentator and we're going to get started.
Yes.
It was very good. The event was a unique one. They wanted to emulate a Vegas-style boxing atmosphere. You've seen HBO Boxing do it at the MGM Grand and all these amazing places, the amazing title fights. And they wanted to do something unique where they took the deck of a cruise ship and put up a ring there. And with the lights and the glamour. And it was pretty spectacular. And they had live performances and everything. And the funny thing was that it was very good. The card itself was very good. The card itself.
Yeah, so can you run us through the card? Like if you can just run us through the card. Because honestly, ladies and gentlemen, Arjun Chipalkatti was a commentator. He was right there. He was up there seeing it close and personal. He's going to tell us some inside stuff. And this is so interesting because he refused to tell me off camera. He wants to tell it to me in front of all of you. And I want to hear it because he's excited. He's looking forward to this. So Arjun, hit it up from here.
Chalo. So the fight card took place in Goa. It had about 6 undercard fights and one co-main and main. The main, of course, was Vijender Singh versus Atish Lobsan. It was, we'll get to that eventually. And the co-main event was our own Neeraj Goyat fighting. A fighter from one of his own camps, Sandeep Kumar, somebody he knew from before. And that was a very interesting fight because Neeraj was stated to fight in the Super Boxing League against Amir King Khan 2 years back. Neeraj had an accident when was recovering.
Oh, yes.
And
I remember
that. Yeah, you remember that. And that fight was called off. And he took, after he won the fight, he landed, by the way he won in the fourth round, he landed a beautiful straight left or a straight right to the solar plexus, which just took the wind out of his opponent. And that's all she wrote. He got a knockout in the fourth round. So congratulations to Neeraj. But Neeraj took the opportunity to get onto the mic and call out Amir Khan. That was really, really cool. And then the rest of the fight card was also a very interesting one. It had a lot of great amateur fighters coming from all across India. It had, I can remember some of the names. There were these boys from Chennai, a fighter called Karthik, who moved so well. You must watch the recast, the repeat telecast. I think it's going to be deferred telecast 1 week from now on Sony. And you must watch it to see the level. Somesh, you're a coach. You train today's youth in MMA and boxing. And you've seen some of the talent that's come out. And I think these events like Fight on the Ship that was curated by iOS Boxing was a really good chance for coaches and promoters to come together to show an undercard. When you have a co-main and main event like Neeraj Goyat and Vijender Singh who are headlining a card, then the rest of the card is a great opportunity for fighters. And there were some female fighters as well. Incredible. Oh man, Somesh, you gotta see it. You gotta see it.
Oh man, I cannot wait to tune into this. Arjun, this sounds so exciting. In fact, I wish I was there with you.
Yeah,
but,
man.
Yeah,
And
I'm going to be tuning in.
And a lot of Indian fighters have embraced the showmanship aspect. There was a fighter called Digari Mahesh who came in with his sunglasses and had a little bit of flair about the way he did his weigh-ins, the way he walked in. He won and
wow.
he won his fight. And I think fighters are beginning to embrace that attitude. A lot of people used to say that there's no fire from Indian fighters. I think that's complete. That's a pot of bullshit. And the new breed are just taking it on, and they're coming out aggressively, and their skills are backing them up.
Well, Arjun, in fact, can you imagine a scenario where there are 100 people trying to be Conor? I mean, why? I mean, I don't see a reason why we cannot develop that one flamboyant Conor McGregor from India. There definitely has to be somebody who is out there, someone who has the skill, someone who has the determination, has the work ethic, and who's going to make it to the top.
Absolutely.
We just need more promotions to come out there, put up shows so we can find that one rough diamond.
Exactly. And that's why I like promotions like iOS that did this. Even though they headlined Vijender, they gave all the younger fighters a great chance to be on the card. And even better still, even though the co-main and the main were a pay-per-view, the rest of the fights were free to watch on Facebook. So no matter what, they got a lot of visibility. But Somesh, quickly now coming to the main event, you saw the main event. It was the return of Vijender Singh after 15 months against the Russian juggernaut Artish Lobsan. And it was going well until it wasn't.
Exactly. In fact, I was so disappointed for that because honestly, Vijender Singh has been having an undefeated record, an undefeated pro record in boxing. And I felt the challenge was not very big for him. If he loses to, a bigger name or a bigger game plan, it would actually make sense. But I expected him to have a stronger comeback, as you said, after 15 months. But honestly, very disappointing. In fact, when I saw the weigh-ins photo, I did send you a text message saying, listen,
yes, I remember.
I don't think he's looking in the best shape. However, let's see how this goes.
Yes, you know what? And after the fight, there were a lot of other people and his coaches and other coaches who agreed to your point, Somesh. I think he expected an easier fight. I think he expected, no fights are easy, but I think it's just he may have taken it slightly lightly. And I think his conditioning was not 100%. He was not 100% conditioned. And I think it showed. Because he was tiring, he was getting... but the thing, here's the strategy, Somesh. Like, I know, he was trying to please the crowd. Once he got going in that fourth round and he scored that knockdown, he thought he could step in and do the same thing over and over. But I got to give it to that Russian man. He just stood there. He was smiling at those shots. He was smiling at those shots. And he stood in the pocket. And when Vijender hit him, he took the shot, returned fire and busted him up. He broke Vijender's nose. He cut him above the eye. He was bleeding from the mouth. And I think mercifully, it was called a TKO. In that sixth round, he was dropped 5 times.
Oh man, that is so disappointing because there's something about these Russian fighters that is just getting to me, When I even see people like Peter Yan, when Peter Yan fights, man, he takes the shot, but he returns fire like there's no tomorrow. He returns fire with a vengeance. And that is so good to see. People with heart, fighters that have that grit, fighters that really want to put up that show. Oh man. That's crazy. I love seeing such fighters. And there's no harm in losing to a better fighter.
No, there's no harm. But the thing is that what a lot of people were upset about was Vijender adopted a bad strategy. I mean, if somebody is able to take your punches and somebody hits harder than you don't exactly want to stand in front of them in their range. You want to hit them and get out. And I think that is where there was maybe a lapse in judgment. There was something there. I know, Vijender is one of the toughest fighters to ever come out of this part of the world. And he is a great champion. He's India's great champion. He has always put on shows. And we all know that he's going to come back. He's going to, it's Conor McGregor, what he said after his first loss is until, the fact that you're undefeated, you're not scared of anything. Until the time that you're undefeated, you're not scared of anything. It's now going to show what happens from now. Because now that you've been defeated, you're going to see what happens. And I have a strong feeling that Vijender is going to get really back. He's going to get ready. He's going to come back in shape and call out the man that beat him on home soil.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is wise words from the wise man himself, the man who was ringside commentating on the Vijender Singh fight, Mr. Arjun Mystic Chipalkatti. Well, Arjun, that brings us to the end of round one, and
Yes, sir.
it will give us an opportunity to show you some really nice ads out here, and we can move on to round two after this quick break. Don't go anywhere. View us, see us, hear us, follow us only on the Fighting Goat on the IVM podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'd like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, G.O.A.T Tires and the Whole Truth Foods. We really appreciate your support. So, on Cyrus Says, Sagarika Ghost, journalist, columnist, author, discusses books she has written, her experiences from reporting about the Babri Masjid demolition back in the day, and the upcoming state election. Cyrus also had a great episode with Devdutt Patnaik last week. Do check that out. Chuck narrates an interesting story about a company that shared its virtual expertise with other companies and empowered the virtual world. No, we're not going to tell you what the brand is, but go check out The Origin of Things. And Chuck also came back on Simplified this week from episode 200 onwards. He's back. Go check that out if you haven't had a chance to do so far. The Habit Coach Ashton was joined by Sapna Gopalkrishnan, his co-trekker on Mount Kilimanjaro. They recollect the trek's memories, and Sapna talks about the challenges she faced. On All Things Policy, Rachit Sheth talks to Sarthak Pradhan about Delhi's water crisis. This is due to the pollution of his major water source, the river Yamuna, and he discusses the case against the state of Haryana. We had Manish Dangi, Chief Investment Officer of the Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund, on Paisa Vaisa with Anupam Gupta. They discussed India's financial report card with reference to the past decade, the hits and misses, and what the future of investing is going to look like. And with that, let me get you back to your show.
Welcome back, everybody, to round number 2 of the Fighting Goat. We are in the middle of episode 4. If you're just joining us, you must go back and hear everything that we said before this. I'm Arjun, aka Mystic Chips. I'm joined by my partner Somesh Kamra. We have been having a great conversation, but now we're going to be talking about something that is very significant. We've seen this happening for the last few months. We especially saw it this weekend, at least for me. There are fans and there are fans, but Somesh, I wanted to talk to you about this in particular because this has got it's a two-pronged subject. It's about fighting is fighting. When fighting began, it was to see two guys pound the hell out of each other. And
Absolutely.
It evolved into a sport. It evolved into boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Taekwondo, Karate, where it started becoming more and more strategic. It became more point system based. When the UFC started their shows in the world of MMA, of course, you saw fights in Pride before that, and then you came to the UFC, and I think it's a general evolution of fighters. The question,
Right.
the subject here that I want to talk to you about is safe fighting taking over the entertainment aspect of fighting?
So, can you define what safe fighting is exactly?
I'm going to catch flack for this for sure, but it's the utilization of the point scoring. It's a Canelo Alvarez versus Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather knows how to use to work defensively and use the points to his advantage. But Canelo will go in and take your head off no matter what. Manny Pacquiao will take your head off
Right.
no matter what. Conor will take your head off no matter what. Nate Diaz doesn't even care about rounds.
Right. So, Arjun, that's a very it's a very valid question. A lot of fighters, a lot of people have actually spoken to me about this. Are the fighters of today's generation looking at the victory? Are they looking to win,
Right.
or are they looking to fight? And I should tell you, sometimes those two topics are different. There are times where the fighter looks to win. There are times where the fighter just comes to put on a damn fight. And when I say a damn fight, ladies and gentlemen may not know about these two absolute warriors called Andy Bowen and Jack Burke. So Andy Bowen and Jack Burke are two boxers. I don't remember. I think it was some early 1900s.
Okay.
They had the longest boxing match ever. Those were the days where there was no 12 rounds, 15 rounds, 3 minutes. It was 3-minute rounds. You go till either you stand up or there's a TKO or something of that sort. That boxing match was 7 hours 19 minutes.
Wow.
The boxing match was 7 hours, 19
That is insanity,
minutes.
man.
And at the end of it, the referee had to call it a no contest because none of them
How
were falling.
pissed off would
I
you
mean,
be after
know,
that? It's like, it's
know-
still a no contest. We fought for 7 hours. You guys can't make a decision. Is this
You know,
Cecil Peoples I'm talking to? Inside joke.
In fact, I guess the fighter who has fought the longest in the UFC, I think, is Frankie Edgar.
Yeah.
I think it's about 5 hours and few minutes.
Yeah.
And that is his entire career.
Across what, 10 years or so?
Exactly. And here we're talking about two boxers in one night. I wouldn't say night, it would have gone on to the morning. But in one fight, they fought for 7 hours and 19 minutes. The point I'm trying to make here, Arjun, is that the fighters of today, let's
How many guys
speak
do you
about
come?
Kevin
Sorry to
Holland.
interrupt. How many guys do you see in the gym who you are working with some of the newer breed, and what it's hard to tell them what to because they watch guys like Kamaru Usman and then they watch guys like Conor McGregor.
Right. So, typically what happens is somebody like a Muhammad Ali, where the flair came naturally,
Right.
but he backed it up with skill.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, in that particular situation, the package is absolutely perfect for a promoter and a manager to actually take to the next level. Someone like a McGregor is somebody who you would want to manage because
Right.
you can possibly build businesses around him. Now he has a whiskey brand. Now he has a clothing
Right,
brand. He
right.
probably has some other
He probably has some 50
companies
other
lined
companies.
up.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he's probably making $1 billion a year just from that. But honestly, can you build a brand around Kamaru Usman, who I think possibly is a much better fighter?
absolutely.
Can you build a brand around him? I don't think so. I don't think
Somesh,
so.
then see, throughout history, they've been. What my other question also is how much weight is put on being entertaining. But look at this, for example. Look at Shogun. When is he not entertaining? Look at Wanderlei Silva.
Right.
When were they not entertaining? In fact, in Pride, you got penalized for not being entertaining.
Well, but Arjun, see, the era that you're speaking about is an era where people wanted to fight and not earn money. Exactly. So the issue with today's fighters is they are taking inspiration from the flamboyance of McGregor or the flamboyance of any other fighter, and they're not focusing on the core task. The core task is to come there and fight. Like, for example, if you ask me, I would pay for a Nate Diaz over John Jones, maybe, or a Nate Diaz over GSP.
Or Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone always brings it.
Absolutely. In fact, Donald Cerrone is someone who I would still pay to see.
True. Look at Chris Lieben. Chris Lieben as well was one of those hardcore old school guys. Just who came there to kill you.
He just came to scrap, and I love that attitude. If you speak of champions like John Jones, maybe GSP, honestly, yeah, I would love to see them on Sony TV free of cost. But would I buy a pay-per-view? I highly doubt it. I don't think so. That does come on. I'm going to get some flack for this, but it's not that they're not good fighters. I'm not saying they're not good
they're
fighters,
the greatest.
but honestly, I think Sachin Tendulkar is one of the best that have ever come out of this country. But if you ask me sheer brand value wise, man, I can build brands around Virat Kohli because he has the aura, he has a personality, his social media looks good, he's fit.
True.
He talks trash. However, the younger generation are looking at the flamboyance first and the art second. I feel it should be the other way around. You need to perform, you need to get your skills out there, and post that you can do whatever you want. Exactly what happened with Kevin Holland.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, see, so it's also the fact of trying and then trying too hard. It's what happened to Sean O'Malley before his fight against Chito Vera. He was cutting these videos of saying how he's this, sitting with a pipe and a cigar. It's all that Conor inspiration. Conor never did that shit before he became the Mystic Notorious. His first 10 fights, he was straight up. He was normal. He did whatever he had to do. But it's a tough subject because it's not everybody can have the most insane skills and be entertaining. Anderson Silva, for one, the most spectacular way to knock you out. He used to knock you out in the most spectacular way. Whereas there are guys, and there are guys. Cerrone always puts everything on the line. Entertainment first. Guys like Cody Garbrandt, I will always remember him.
Oh, man.
Because that man stepped in and didn't care whether even if he was winning 4.5 rounds, and then in the last 30 seconds he might get knocked out. He'll be like, yeah, okay, cool. You know who comes to mind? Somesh, one of the greatest
Oh man.
One of the
What a
greatest
beast,
scrappers
man.
of all
Robbie
time
Lawler
is Robbie
versus Rory
frickin'
McDonald
Lawler.
is, man, that was a fight of the century. And if you haven't seen it,
Oh my God.
just Google it. Robbie Lawler versus
Everybody
Rory
go out and
McDonald.
Google it, please.
Oh man, if
Please just.
oh man, these guys just.
Oh my God.
I mean,
Lawler
come on,
conned it also,
Rory
dude.
McDonald, after having such wars in the cage, comes out of the cage and says, listen, I think I just need to take a break. I just need to, make peace with God. I need to be in the church for a few more hours. I need to call prayers. I need to, be a pastor. I mean, man, see, Arjun, I personally feel this all comes down to being real and being yourself.
True. I was just going to
Yeah.
say that somebody like Robbie was never a marketing
Oh,
genius.
man,
He never talked
absolutely.
shit. But the way he looked at you, you pretty much shat. And they used that badass imagery. Like even Rory McDonald, he called him the Canadian psycho because his eyes were dead set that way. When he fought, he would freak you out because the temperature dropped around him.
They shouldn't just need to be real. I mean, they just need to be themselves. And honestly, there's nothing wrong in being like an Usman or someone who, like maybe like a Tyrant Woodley. I don't know. There's nothing wrong in being that way. But if you're trying too hard to be like a Conor, it's going to be fake. People are going to look through it, and it's very, very obvious.
No, but one line now only on this. Only one more line on this. So
One long line.
when you talk about the younger generation, one long line. when you talk about the younger generation, when you tell them, you motivate them, what do they get motivated by anymore? Do you want to be world champion or you want to be rich? And you can get there in both ways, because people forget fighting is
Yeah.
also entertainment. You cannot stomp someone's foot for 5 rounds and then be called world champion. Because you can be, but that's because you use the rules
well,
effectively.
yeah,
Or what Koscheck did to Daly, where he just laid on him for 3 rounds, and it pissed off Daly so much that he got up and punched him after the
well,
fight.
that in fact happened when I believe Wanderlei Silva fought Chael Sonnen, I think last year. Where Wanderlei got so pissed off that it was, he was just kind of wrestling throughout the 15
won't
minutes.
blame
And
him.
honestly, Wanderlei Silva is the kind of guy that even at age 75 just wants to bang. He just wants to come out swinging.
Dude, remember? Okay, no, that's a wrong example because both of them are natural entertainers. But remember Wanderlei versus Brian Stan.
Oh,
Brian
man.
Stan is one of the sweetest veterans of the world who was a former commentator and has now left
Yeah.
the business. But remember
Oh,
that fight?
man.
He brought that version out of Stan to come and, like, come on, let's make history together. Let them not forget. Let's not worry about who won or lost. I don't care about the rankings. Do you?
I mean,
I
in
don't.
fact, that is such a good attitude. I feel there is someone in today's generation who has that attitude is Max Blessed Holloway. He comes and he
Oh
says,
my
let's,
God.
like forget the cage. Come in the middle and let's swing. Show me what you got.
Don't you think? I think Max Holloway is just. I don't think Max wants the belt. He just wants to beat
Absolutely.
Volkanovski.
Yes.
He's like, keep the belt home.
Yeah.
Let's fight on the street. I just want to beat you. That's it. It's just one of those,
And honestly, I don't know Max personally, but this is just the way he is. He's not faking it. He's not showing anything. This is just the way he is, and it is so beautiful to watch.
But do fight promoters show favoritism towards fighters who are more entertaining? Of course. I mean, if I was, I would. I would always show favoritism towards somebody who goes out. And didn't Dana do that to Chuck? He didn't care about Chuck and Shogun losing as many times as they have. But every time they came out, they put on a fight.
Let's speak of Chuck and Tito. What really happened with them? So see, Arjun, to be really honest, the fight business is not a very easy business, and it's a very capital intensive business to be in. So if you need to put up one show, the amount of time, effort, money that goes into doing it needs a lot of capital backing. And honestly, typically what happens in such a scenario is that the boss always looks at the numbers. Who's getting me the pay-per-views, who's getting me the merchandise sales, who's going to benefit me financially. And if I could just run some numbers with the viewers, if we speak of the Conor Cerrone fight card, which I think it was UFC 246 or something, which I don't remember exactly, but
I think it was in January of 2020.
Yes,
That much I remember.
that fight card was a very average fight card, and it had 1.3 million buys, pay-per-views.
That was just all
1.3
gone.
million pay-per-view purchases. But the last Stipe fight with DC was some 750,000 or 800,000. And that card had a lot more bigger fighters, entertaining fighters, but I mean, numbers don't lie.
Can you imagine when Brock versus Mir 2 co-headlined by GSP
man.
versus Alves? What numbers did Brock do? Man, Brock's numbers were just
Absolutely.
astronomical for its
Absolutely.
time. In 2010, I think he crossed like 1.5 million
Yes.
pay-per-view buys.
Yes.
In 2010. And that's
Yes.
11 years
Yes.
ago. Not even now. And the business aspect is one thing. I
In
get
fact,
it.
one of the
I get
first-
that.
yeah.
Everybody has to make money.
Sorry.
But how much does it impact the strategic fighter at the end of the day? Do you think fighters, because of that, get pissed off and say, okay, chalo, let's go for broke? Which Kamaru Usman has clearly been trying to prove. He won his last fight he stopped his last opponent.
Right. In fact,
And
we were just speaking of Chuck and Tito.
right.
I think the first million that ever got sold in the UFC was in 2007 or 2006 when Chuck and Tito were fighting, and that card sold
Really?
a million pay-per-views. 1 million pay-per-views.
That's mental.
know?
Now it's become the norm. Now every card almost hits 700-800.
Yeah.
So I think we can sum up by saying that I think a healthy balance between the two is necessary. But at the end of the day, yeah, of course, try and always be more entertaining because that's how you get the fans.
Right. And I would highly suggest every fighter that listen, just find your niche, be yourself, and success will come. You don't need to be a Conor, you don't need to be a John Jones, you don't need to be a Stipe. Just be yourself, find your niche, and first excel in the sport before capitalizing on the flamboyance aspect. Excel in the sport. You don't need to wear flashy suits
Very
or
true.
come in a fancy car or have this big gold watch. Honestly, that will get you nowhere. I mean, if your skills don't back it up, that doesn't get you anywhere.
True, very true. And that was some wise words from the man himself, the superhuman Kamra. But so what do we have next? Oh, now is the truth time. I'm a little scared about this week because I think we have been on the wrong side of the decisions.
Well-
So Somesh, can you quickly segue us into a break before we get to the MMA face-off?
Well, before that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a quick break. This is the end of round number 2 of the Fighting Goat. We'll see you on the other side after this quick ad break for round number 3, where Chips, or shall I say Team Chips and Team Kamra have their face-off and see who is the winner.
Working Monday to Friday glued to your chair making you feel dull? Worry not. Get your 5-minute weekly dose of travel around the world with postcards from nowhere. Join me every Thursday as I explore the strange, obscure, and fascinating parts of the world and bring out facets of travel you may not have thought of before. You can find us on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to round number 3 of the Fighting Goat. It's Team Chips versus Team Kamra time, only on the IVM Podcast Network. It's going to be fun. This is episode 4. Team Chips has been leading so strongly so far. I mean, we can't even see Team Kamra anymore in the race. Where Lambe, that race which is gone where the car is just so much faster than the other car.
We were speaking of somebody apologizing to you
I don't know what you're talking
this
about.
weekend.
I don't know what you're talking about. But more importantly, you're going to be apologizing to me next week. You're going to be apologizing to me next week because Somesh, you want to tell them the good news for the fans who want to see us get hurt?
Well, yes, for those who don't like us, for the trollers, the abusers,
The losers.
Well, yes. In fact, Team Chips and Team Kamra had chosen Kevin Holland to win in the fight, and Kevin Holland has lost. That gives Mr. Cyrus Brocha all the rights and the authority, or shall I say the rights and the lefts, to strike us in the arm anytime this week if he can catch us.
If he can catch us, yes. I have a rickshaw on standby just in case. But if
Well, and I have my Luna, so let's see.
Well, oh man, getting hit by Cyrus would be fun though. But chalo, let's see what happens. Mr. Brocha, we are waiting if you want to do this. But
Mr. Brocha, where are you, MF?
where you
You're
at,
working-
Brocha? Where you at? You've taken everything I worked for.
Beep.
All right, Somesh, you want to head us up? We've got a great fight card coming this weekend.
Yes, in fact, there is some good news and some bad news. The good news is that Stipe Miocic faces the beast,
Yes.
Francis Ngannou, the Predator, the rematch.
Oh, I can't wait.
The
Kya
first
marta hai
one.
wo,
Was, oh man, the first one was a clear, one-sided victory by Stipe Miocic. But this time, Arjun, the Predator is looking completely different.
Oh man, it's going to be such a great fight. He's matured so much. He's become such a dangerous fighter. We'll come to the prediction part later. But it's such a depressing thing that COVID-19 has struck again and cancelled a great fight for us.
Yes, well, in fact, the previous card, Brunson versus Holland, there was a fighter from City Kickboxing who was there, who was contracted with the COVID-19.
Gregor Gillespie, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was Brad. I think his name was Brad, if I'm not mistaken.
So, our mistake. So, yeah, again, so I think it was his partner or something, and that's why it got scrapped. Volkanovski got infected, right?
Brad Riddell, yes. Brad Riddell from City Kickboxing was contracted with the COVID-19 virus, and unfortunately, even Alexander Volkanovski is out of next week's card, which means the co-main event for the 145-pound featherweight division is officially off. As of today, we have 4 fights on the main card. It's headlined by Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou, which is a title fight in the heavyweight category. And in the welterweight category, we have Tyron Woodley versus Vincent Luque.
Oh man, it's good. So we're going to quickly wrap this up now. We're going to do the 3 fights. Somesh, what are the 3 fights we're betting on? I think it's going to be...
Well, it's the bantamweight division, Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida.
Oh.
In the welterweight category, we have Tyron Woodley and Vincent Luque. And the heavyweight main event of the evening, Stipe Miocic and the Predator, Francis Ngannou. So let's go. Bantamweight division, Sean O'Malley, Thomas Almeida. Mystic.
Okay, I'm going to go with the veteran Thomas Almeida.
Okay, now after that loss to Chito Vera, I'll be going for Sugar, Sean O'Malley.
All right, here we go. That's all right. Sean O'Malley for Team Kamra, Thomas Almeida for Team Chips. Let's see who wins. Co-main event, Woodley versus Vincente Luque. Team Chips will go with Vincente Luque.
Is it for rapping or for fighting?
Fighting. Rapping is all Woodley, man.
Okay. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to be going against Team Chips. In the welterweight category, I'm going for the ace rapper, Tyron Woodley.
Okay, all right. We've got 2 against 2 now. And now, third and final, the main event for the heavyweight title, the Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou. I say champion retains and retires.
Ooh, interesting. Retains and retires.
Come on, Stipe is not young, man. He's 36, 37 years old. I think he has nothing more to prove. He's already the greatest heavyweight of all time.
You're calling me old?
I'm calling myself old also.
Well, Team Kamra will go with Mystic Chips, and I would say Stipe Miocic retains his belt. I don't think he retires, but yeah, and still the heavyweight champion of the world and the baddest man on the planet, Stipe Miocic.
Absolutely. So, guys, tune in to the fights, watch and support either Team Chips or Team Kamra. You can catch us on Twitter. You can catch me on Twitter at Mystic Chipal and on Instagram as Arjun_Chipalkatti, and of course at IVM Podcasts on every platform. Somesh, tell us where we can catch you.
Well, on Instagram, I'm Somesh.Kamra, as simple as that. And on Twitter, it is Somesh_Kamra. But ladies and gentlemen, please write into us, tag us, mention us. One of y'all will be getting a very interesting prize at the end of this.
Yes.
You guys need to support Team Chips or Team Kamra, and the winner gets a very, very interesting prize from us. So,
Absolutely.
Guys, please tune in to The Fighting GOAT, exclusively produced by the IVM Podcast. Catch Chips, catch Kamra on all our social media platforms. I hope you enjoyed this. Looking forward on seeing you next Wednesday after we decide on who has kept the belt or who has lost the belt.
It's gonna be Team Chips. It's gonna be Team Chips. So let's not even go there, Mr. Kamra.
Well, let's see if you survive the punch by Mr. Chinese Procha.
That's also there. But that being said, guys, thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to tune in to this podcast, The Fighting Goat, and many, many more on the IVM Podcast Network. Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm Zarina, your peak performance coach, leadership coach, and life coach. And I'm here to unleash that power within you with your weekly dose of mantras and empowerment. Tune in to Monday Mantras every Monday for your quick fix, and the Empowering Series with Zarina Poonawalla every Thursday for riveting real-life stories. You can catch us on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.
Namaskar, dear friends. My name is Ashish Vidyarthi. Life, as you know, is a journey. And you and I, travelers, how can we celebrate this travel? I have a podcast for you, Begin the Journey. I share stories and moments from my life. Do tune in every Monday and Thursday to listen to my podcast on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from. Cheers.